Well, welcome.
Thank you.
It is really nice to have you. I am here with Gali.
My name is Gali Ettner Lefkowitz. I live in Florida, in Jupiter, Florida. Before that, I was in New York, and originally I'm from Tel Aviv. I have been with the Mussar Institute taking courses since the beginning of the pandemic, but it's been something that was on my mind a long time prior. I just couldn't do it. Like I didn't have the opportunity and the time to do it.
So, what was the very first Mussar experience you had? Did you take a class?
My husband's a rabbi in our Reform congregation, and he brought Seeking Everyday Holiness to our congregation. And everyone who took the class were just, it was amazing to them. So I read the book, I read Alan's book, but I really didn't want to take Mussar with my husband. And he thought that it would be a little bit weird for us. But it was in the back of my mind as something that one day I would like to do. And during the pandemic, an email came to him saying 5 steps for a better you. And he forwarded to me and he said, I think you would enjoy that. And I was like, okay, I can risk the time. And it was like a taste of, and definitely something I wanted to do. So I did it. And I haven't looked back after that. It's been 5 weeks that brought me to a better me. It's a lot of work and a lot of thinking and a lot of challenges, but it's been such a wonderful path for me.
Tell me a little bit about what shifted for you after 5 steps. What did you learn about yourself? How did it impact you?
For me, I connected mostly to the text study. I love reading, I love learning, I love exploring. I am less, I always defined myself as less spiritual, which now, after all these years of Mussar, I understand that this is not the right vocabulary. I am not spiritual. Being intellectual does not mean that you're not spiritual. But I'd always had a very complicated relationship with God. Even at 5 steps, which was really a basic understanding, I loved the simplicity of everything. It was enough intellectual challenge to keep me engaged and interested, but also different kind of challenges. I am not a person who usually meditates. I am not a person who has a set goal for the day. I am definitely not a journaling person. My entire life, I ran away from self-help things, like from fire. But this is different. It challenged me out of my comfort zone in a very positive way, but kept me engaged through the intellectual exploration and mostly the text studies and the vadim. I was challenged, but not in a weird way. Does that make sense?
Sounds like you were challenged, but you weren't alienated.
Right, exactly.
Which sometimes can happen when you get challenged.
And in a weird way, maybe because my entire experience has been on Zoom, I found a community of people at the Mussar Institute and connected to people in ways that I didn't expect to connect at all. I have people that I communicate with on a weekly basis, bare my soul. They bear their soul to me. We know each other. We see each other, but we're not part of each other's life in the nitty-gritty everyday part. I have people that I don't even know what they do for a living. I kind of know where they live, not exactly sure, but they know, I feel that they know me more than people that I am part of my regular community. Right. Because I am not afraid to share that part of me. And in truth, how many times in our regular life, how many conversations you get to actually have with people that really search their souls and get to know people in such deep level. And for some reason, this works. These people on my Zoom that I don't know if they're short, tall, what they do for a living, how many kids, I usually know how many cats or dogs they have because those kind of run around. I don't know a lot of things about them. I don't know what they vote. I don't care what they vote. But I know their journey and they know mine. And it is very special and really a unique community that I feel so blessed to be part of and discover.
So I'm curious about how having that group, that kind of connected, soulful, spiritual VAD group, which sounds like it's different from what you have in the rest of your life, how that's impacted your day-to-day life.
God and I are exploring our relationships.
Mm-hmm.
For me, this has been a challenging relationship my entire life. I'm on my own path, mm-hmm. and that this path is supported and encouraged and shared. And I learned to not seek answers, but embrace the journey here. You know, it's a big gift. It's a big gift, and it's one of the biggest changes that I have in my life. I go to temple every Friday night. I used to struggle in prayer, trying to connect, and now I'm okay. I'm, I connect. I don't connect. It doesn't change the relationship. It doesn't. It means different things, but I'm embracing the challenge. And it's been wonderful for me. So that is the big relationship that I had, the change with Mussar. I want to believe that I'm a better person through that. I want to believe that I am more compassionate, empathetic, patient. I know that it brought a very wonderful structure and addition to my life. I like the intent. I like the intent every morning. I even though I still struggle with my journaling, I'm trying, and I really have. I meditate much more than I have before, and I all those things that are really helpful. Right. So it's really been part of who I am now.
So one of the things we know in our Mussar learning is that we focus on different midot or soul traits to help us be able to regulate, motivate, change, practice. And so I'm wondering if there are any midot that are particularly influential for you, that have particularly influenced your day-to-day life.
For me, it's always bitachon and emunah. I struggle, as I mentioned many times, I struggle with my relationship with God. It's a work in progress, but now I lean into it in a very joyful way. Yeah. I don't remember who it was, unfortunately. She gave a beautiful lecture about the work, and she was talking about joy in the work.
Right.
And I feel that Mussar brings joy into my work. Instead of looking at things from an angle of, I fail here, I fail there, I need to work on this, I need to work on that. I wake up in the morning and say, okay, this week we're going to work on savlanut. I'm not going to dig into my lack of generosity or something else. Right. I find it to be very positive and joyful.
So it sounds to me like the focus that we have on one midah at a time has been very helpful for you.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to see, we've got all these different things we could work on, but being able to focus on bitachon or trust and trusting God 1 week, and savlanut or patience another week, that helps to give us a sense of joy and success in the process.
Right, because now I know how to do it. I was given the tools of how to be successful. Clearly if I was successful all the time, then I would have been a perfect person, and that would be, but there is so much joy in working and elevating yourself.
Yeah.
Because you do see success.
How has your experience with Mussar been a different kind of Jewish learning for you?
So I was raised in Israel, in a secular family. I was raised by an atheist and an agnostic. And so naturally I married a rabbi. But
push the boundaries somewhere.
Yeah. Rebel. I don't feel like I was given adequate access to our resources. So I came to this from a community organizing perspective, from believing in the Jewish people, but not from knowledge of our books or our canon. No deep spiritual connection, which has been, for me, being in a rabbinical family, a clergy family, going every Friday night. I'm at services for the last 25 years. I love it. I love the music. I love the people. I love the community aspect of it. And I know I can read Hebrew, so it's easy for me to read the texts, but I don't necessarily know and understand why things are the way they are. Where did they come from? And for me, Mussar gave me the key to the library.
Beautiful. The key to the library.
The key to the library, because, and especially the courses through the Mussar Institute, because you start with small texts and you can go as deep, then you have options. You can read the Hebrew part that comes always with a translation, but you don't have to.
Right.
So for me, the text study has been the key. And I really love it.
I'm wondering how sort of you would look down at yourself and say, this has impacted her. I can see. This is where I see it. I'm wondering what you would see.
I am much calmer and more focused. But I also, and I also feel that I have a toolbox that I didn't have prior. And I will give you an example. I guess it's a soul story. A couple of years into my Mussar journey, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I had to go through a double mastectomy. It was in a routine, it was discovered in a routine mammogram. I didn't feel anything, I was not in pain, so I had, I had a biopsy, which is not unusual. And I wasn't particularly stressed about it because I had a bunch of those before. And when the doctor called me to give me the results of the biopsy, my feeling when the conversation was the conversation, she told me the news and she told me where I need to go, what's the next steps. And I hung up the phone and I was flushed with gratitude. Because I knew that my diagnosis was not bad. And yes, there's going to be a bumpy road for a little bit, but how lucky am I to be living in times when we can cure this fairly easily? It's a bump in the road. It's a long bump, and I'm not going to pretend like it was definitely not fun. And but given the other options, wow, I don't think that the person I was before Mussar would have taken any cancer diagnosis with such calmness and gratitude. And it was almost like a weird experience because people say, "Oh, how you feel about it? How you feel?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm really grateful that they have something to do because they give, and I have options. They told me you can do this, they told me I can do that, and I'm just kind of sitting with this and thinking about it." And I think that's the other thing. Mussar taught me to use time as my friend.
Wow.
To sit with things.
Right.
Equanimity. We ride the highs, the lows, we ride those waves. It will come, it will go. This too shall pass. But it gives you a very healthy, I think, perspective.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. What advice would you have for somebody who's starting out in Mussar or considering Mussar? Is there anything you might say to them?
Come for the questions, stay for the community.
I love it.
I am so happy with the community that it's unbelievable, the level of candor and connection that people who are so different and only know each other from Zoom can create. I had Chavruta from Uruguay and Chavruta from Amsterdam. It has been old and young and men and women and people with all kinds of experiences in Judaism. It's been such a blessing and so lovely. I have taken through the years a couple of facilitator courses, and I found that those courses have been exceptionally challenging and very interesting. There's so many people who are into the process of their own spiritual journey that can benefit from Mussar. That I think that if people are already in the process and think that they can facilitate, they should take advantage of that, because I have done from Yesod to Teen to Manchim, and each one of them was such an incredibly enriching spiritual process for me, that I think if people have an interest in that, they should definitely look that opportunity through the Mussar Institute.
I think you bring up something that we hear a lot from our Mussar teachers, which is once we get a taste of it, once we have our own practice, part of our practice is bringing it to other people, that is part of our own growth as practitioners. And so the idea of facilitating is not just for people who see themselves as teachers and educators and facilitators, that it is actually part of the practice, which is how do I turn what I'm learning about myself into an experience that involves other folks to bring them on their path as well.
In the local Jewish community that I am in, we created a beautiful community for ourselves here within the Mussar learners that we have here. And there's always like, what's next? What else can we do? How else can we get together and enrich our life and learn something new? And so yeah, it's very exciting and it's been very gratifying. One of the biggest problems that we know that we have as a society is the problem of loneliness. Mm-hmm. And whether I found that a lot of people that take those classes create a community for themselves. You don't know people, but you come to this class. And again, you bare your soul. People learn to know who you are and the pairing that comes out of it. And I don't mean just the chavruta, I'm just the Val itself, can be very unusual seekers that end up together that will never find each other otherwise, even in a small Jewish community.
Right.
And I think this is very important and meaningful and valuable in our society, that is just so, so many people are so lonely.
There's something sort of magical that happens and surprising that happens. It happened to me as well. Mm-hmm. How could I possibly feel connected to people I've never met in person, who I just have an experience on Zoom with? And it speaks to the quality, I think, of the facilitators, of whom you are now one, and the work itself. Mm-hmm. That this is really about bringing out our inner light. And if we can do that in a way that feels safe and vulnerable and spiritual, we can really change ourselves and then change the world. I am so grateful. We'll go back to gratitude, or hakarat hatov, one of our midot, that you are in our community, that I have had a chance to meet you personally, that you were willing to share some time of your heart and your soul here. And I'm hoping that, and I'm sure that some people who see this will be very excited and motivated and inspired to take a taste of Mussar and what Mussar has to offer.